I was watching a PBS show about art. It was late at night and I was half asleep, so I don't remember it that sharply. But I think the gist of it was that Peggy Guggenheim, no relation to Crazy Guggenheim, wanted to commission an artwork, a large one, for the foyer of a building she owned in New York. She admired the work of Jackson Pollock, and she asked him if he'd be interested in doing it, in creating a work for that space. He agreed and made the painting, one of the last ones he did, with the canvas up on the wall. The result, entitled Mural, was installed, and the art critic Clement Greenberg raved about it, and it became famous and wildly expensive, valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. The point of the show was that these three people working together had, in effect, created that work of art, each one indispensable. I think it's interesting to think about it that way. I also read a book about the art world. The author said it was an ethnography. She's got a PhD in sociology as well as a degree in art history, so if she wants to call it an ethnography, it's fine by me. I think an ethnography is an exploration of a strange or foreign society, and the art world would qualify as that. The book covered an auction, an academic exercise called a crit, a magazine art forum, a visit to a studio, an art fair in Switzerland, a competition for a prize in London, and a biennale in Venice. The book did well to cover all those bases, and I found the art world one that I will never see, not from any distance, including interplanetary. I found it depressing, claustrophobic, stuffed with cant, unintentionally hilarious, and mostly excruciatingly boring, despite all kinds of extravagant efforts, including, of course, the art itself, to escape or at least cloak that stifling boredom. Here are some quotes from the book which might convey a sense of its makeup, a word I don't use lightly to describe the art world, where cosmetics, fashion, and money lead the way. Warhol is a globally recognized brand with a fair distribution of works around the world, but a handful of super-rich dealers and collectors with vast Warhol holdings are said to move his market. Andy Warhol, brand and market. Holy soup cans. I consider myself an outsider, for certain, so this next bit particularly caught my eye. It's about artists. But if they are completely ignorant of the hierarchical world in which they operate, then they're in danger of being outsider artists, caught in the bog of their own consciousness, too preciously idiosyncratic to be taken seriously. A footnote to this was added. Outsider art, also called naive art, usually refers to art made by inmates of insane asylums, mentally disturbed people, or self-taught artists who have had little or no contact with art institutions. That explains it. Here I am, caught in the bog of my own consciousness, in company with a bunch of nuts. Here's another quote. Seriousness at art forum and in the art world in general is a commodity. Certain kinds of galleries may want the magazine to be serious even if they have no real coordinates for distinguishing a serious article from the empty signifier of seriousness abused. I love that empty signifier of seriousness abused. What a mouthful. This is about an artist, Takashi Murakami. Mocha is a museum and Schimmel is the head of it. Murakami was having a show at the museum entitled Copyright Murakami. Here's the quote. Murakami is dedicated to ensuring his rights as an artist and controlling the dissemination of his oeuvre. So Mocha's Copyright Murakami activities are kept in check by 4 documents, including a co-publishing agreement for the catalog, an image licensing agreement for the publicity, and a date treatment memorandum related to the use of super high resolution files to make things like merchandise. I find this mind-boggling, and I especially enjoyed the phrase controlling the dissemination of his oeuvre. That's a keeper. It goes on. Unusually, the museum also issued a 7-page letter of agreement outlining a breakdown of responsibilities and stipulating that Murakami had, as Schimmel put it, the right of approval on all aspects of everything. I have to wonder if that's legally binding, and that must have been some 7-page letter. Here's another quote. "The thin boundary between art and entertainment is slowly vanishing. The two fields are probably proceeding more and more with the same strategies. Maybe artists are greedy for more attention or more funding for their projects. Perhaps if I fail as an artist, I'll end up as a second-rate media mogul." A second-rate media mogul, what is that? A guy who owns a couple of newspapers? And finally this, about the reasons to attend a big ballyhooed convention on art. It's not just that people hope they'll have a moving experience with an artwork, or a chance meeting with their favorite artist in a bar. Everyone is secretly expecting that something beautiful will happen to them. I think it is possible to have a moving experience with an artwork, although putting it that way reminds me of the dude who is controlling the dissemination of his oeuvre. And I do think that it is the hope of anyone connected in any way to what might be called the art world by some ethnographer that something beautiful will happen to them. Alas, they are so often disappointed in that high hope, but the hope alone sustains them.